This is a podcast. Shut up. Hey y'all, I'm AJ Reyes.
And I'm Timothy Dailey-Valdes. This is Can I Bother You?
Yay!
Yay! Welcome, everyone.
It's our 13th episode. 13 is my favorite number.
It's true.
I use it as often as I can.
It's your power number. What?
I don't know why you had to make it something dirty.
What?
I don't know, Tim.
Oh, goodness. If you've been enjoying our witty banter, you can find us on social media at Can I Bother You on Instagram and Twitter, and on Facebook at Can I Bother You Podcast. So AJ.
Yeah?
Hello.
Hey.
Happy 13th episode to you.
Happy 13th episode to you.
Oh, well, thank you. 13, that's a number a lot of people are afraid of.
That's true.
Did you know there's a name for fear of the number 13?
I did.
Well, great.
Sorry. There's... What? There's a...
No, don't fake it.
Have you heard that there's a word? I didn't know that
No.
have anything. What is he talking about?
The thrill is
Should
gone.
We be worried? What's happening? What's the word, Tim?
Why don't you tell us, AJ?
I believe I asked you.
It's triskaidekaphobia.
Oh. Scary. In combination with triskaidekaphobia, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes.
He'll put it in the show notes. Timothy will put it in the show notes. I just said Hill, like you guys know who Hill is. Also, it's heel, I guess? Hell. H-E-L-L. I'm very aware that I'm Southern, because I was like, hell.
H-E' double hockey stick.
Exactly. Anyway, coincidentally, we happened to get a question for advice through our DMs from Carter.
Hey, Carter.
Hey, Carter. And so she asked, how did Tim push past his fear of driving to drive again? And how do you push through things that scare or intimidate you? And so I promise you that it just happened. We just happened to get that advice. And I was like, wait, our 13th episode. That'd be great.
Yeah. Kismet.
Yeah.
So I think the first step when you're trying to push through fear is you just have to push it. Push it real good, baby.
I was afraid he was going to do that, but I just held my breath and waited till it was over. So that's the one way to handle fear sometimes.
Listeners, I'd like to apologize to Salt and or Peppa. And let us not forget Spinderella. Now, AJ.
Timothy.
I also need to take this time to apologize to AJ.
Good. Timothy, the first part of the question was directly for you.
It was.
How did you push past your fear of driving to drive again? Oh, in case you guys missed it, in one of our recent episodes, we talked about driving and our experience with that, and Timothy mentioned that with, like, one real exception, he hasn't driven since he was, 18?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the exception is what I think Carter is talking about here when she says, how did you push through it to drive again? I feel a lot of pressure here because this is the big lead into today's topic, but I don't have advice that I think is applicable to every situation, but it can help with some tough situations. And what I had to do with my driving fear in this most recent situation where I had to drive briefly and there was no way around it is I told myself, Timothy, this might suck. You might hate it. It might be terrifying, but it's literally the only option. If you don't do this, you and AJ are not going to your dear friend's wedding, and you're going to have to explain to her why you weren't there. And it's going to be a stupid reason. The reason is going to be, I was too scared to do something that people do every single day. I'm going to cut that out.
That was your,
Mickey Mouse voice.
It was your Mickey Mouse voice. It's also the voice you used for Ralph.
Oh my God, it kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
Also, just real quick, just so anyone who might not have heard it is caught up. What had happened was Timothy and I needed to go on a mini road trip to a friend's wedding. I didn't want to take my car that far, but my license was expired and I couldn't rent a car, so Timothy had to rent it for us. But we were worried that maybe it wouldn't be okay if it was under his name and I drove it off the lot, so it was decided that he would drive it off the lot, and that is why he had to drive again.
It was the perfect crime.
I was thinking of a mean insult, and so I just didn't say anything.
Can you
No,
say
it wasn't like fully formed.
Oh, okay.
It was more like the perfect crime would have been leaving you in the car or something like that.
I like the spirit.
Thank you.
And thank you for not leaving me in the car.
Thank you for risking our lives. It wasn't that bad. You were right in that situation. Our options were pretty limited, and just doing it was kind of the only thing to do.
Yeah. And you know what? I will expand upon the lesson of this story by saying there was an earlier occasion when I was in grad school. Some of my friends and I took a road trip to Colorado, and it was beautiful. It was snowy. It was January. It was gorgeous. I love Colorado. Like, I will take any excuse to go there. It's one of my favorite states. Colorado is great. Anyway, so we were getting ready to leave to come back to Texas, and I didn't help drive on the way up, obviously, but one of my dear friends broke his leg skiing while we were there, and so he couldn't participate in the driving rotation, and so he asked if I could fill in for him, and I was very scared at the prospect of possibly doing that because we were at the top of a mountain and it was very icy and snowy, and I hadn't driven a car at that point in 10 years. Now it's been much longer. But by much longer, I mean 4 years longer. Anyway, I said, if that is something that I need to do, I will find a way to do it, but I am not comfortable doing that, and I don't think it's safe. And so ultimately, the rest of the drivers just split his driving shift between them, and it was fine, I think. But I did feel really bad about that. But anyway, the point of this parable, if you can call it that, is that sometimes, depending on what specific aspect of life we're talking about, sometimes the only way to get through fear is to need to do a thing, to not have an out. I guess is what I'm saying. Sometimes having no other option or convincing yourself that there's no other option is the best way to make yourself do something. That is not always true. I'm very glad that's not the only way that I have at my disposal to get through fear. But in certain very specific circumstances, that works. And maybe that can apply to your situation, Carter. But we also have other advice and other stories that may be more applicable. But that's the direct answer, or actually the very circuitous answer to the portion of your question that's specific to me and driving.
I mean, for me, I feel like even if something isn't actually my only option, I pretty much treat it like it is. Unless the fear is actual fear, for my life or safety. If it's just I'm afraid of this new thing that I have to tackle, I'm always just just do it. And it's not that that's easy or anything, especially from person to person. Some people can just do it, and others need a lot more time to work themselves up to that. But for the most part, I'm usually just do it. There are a few quotes on my Facebook profile page. I have a bunch of quotes that I've collected over the years from books and movies and TV shows that I like a lot. And I think I have two different ones that are actually, I think they're both written by Dailey-Valdes. And there's two of them that are from separate books that he co-wrote. But because he co-wrote both of them, I assume that he wrote them both because they're so similar. But one of them is There's No Such Thing as Ready, There's Only Willing, from Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, the book. I don't know if it's in the movie, I don't remember. And then from Will Grayson, it's Ready, the answer to this question is always going to be no, but I have to do it anyway. Maybe not always consciously, but certainly subconsciously. I think that those are always underneath everything that I do. It's are you ready? No, but you kind of don't have any time, so just do it. When I left Sonic, I worked at Sonic for 10 years. It was almost 10 years. I left right before my 10th Sonic birthday. And basically, from day one, I was like, okay, I'm quitting this job as soon as I can. And then I was there for almost 10 years. And a big part of that was just because I was so comfortable there. I did not really like the job. I certainly didn't like the company. And I loved my customers. That was another part of it. But like, I knew how much money I was making there. I knew I could live off of it. I knew how to do the job well. And so I think all of those, like, safety things are what kept me there that long. And then, ultimately, I was like, well, what, are you just gonna stay here for fucking ever? No. Okay, I guess I'm leaving now. It's like that morning. I decided to do it. No safety net. I didn't have another job or anything lined up. There was a point in my life, when I had, I think it was from, like, ages 22 or 23 until whenever I quit, 26, 27. There was like that 5-6-ish year period where I always had minimum of 2 jobs, sometimes up to 4 jobs. It depends on what year we're talking about. But anyway, I always had 2 jobs. But that last year, I was only at Sonic. I didn't have any other jobs. So I feel like I probably stupidly chose that time to quit. I could have quit when I had 2 or 3 other jobs to fall back on, but that's the moment that I was like, oh, do I only have this one job that I know really well? Am I unhappy? I should quit. So I put in my 2 weeks, and then I think I decided within the hour of opening that morning, and I wrote my 2 weeks, and I put it by the computer, and then in between orders, I was on my phone looking for a new job. That wasn't so much scary as it was exciting, because like once I realized, oh, I'm quitting now. Oh, the time has finally come. I'm actually just gonna quit. I wasn't scared, even though I didn't know where my money was gonna come from. I didn't have anything lined up. I wasn't scared at all. I was just like ready to do it. So this might not really apply to that, to the whole fear question, but it does apply to just doing it.
Definitely. You know, the straw can't decide when the camel's back breaks.
Okay, Tim.
I had sort of a similar feeling when I was starting grad school. I was really excited. It was something I had wanted to do for a long time. But at the same time, I was convinced that I wasn't going to have any friends, that nobody was going to like me, everybody was going to be a much better writer than me. Dear listener, in case you don't recall or haven't heard from previous episodes, my master's was in creative writing, so that's why I'm talking about people being better writers than me. Anyway, and, you know, I thought that everybody else was going to be so professional and well put together and, like, farther along in their writing careers than me. And I had pretty severe imposter syndrome. Like, I was like, oh, you know, somehow I fooled them. I don't know how, but, like, I convinced them that, like, I should be here, but I really shouldn't be here. So, yeah, I was just convinced that I was going to go to my classes and write my little poems and then, like, just go home. Like, I would either be in class or I would be at home, and nobody would want to hang out with me, and I would just be in this strange town, knowing no one, and just being sad. And that scared me. But I was able to make friends, and I was, you know, able to create a life there for the 3 years that I lived there, and I made lifelong friends. That's kind of another situation, I guess, where I didn't really have a choice. If I wanted to be happy, I needed to, well, okay, let me backtrack. Part of my fear too was that I'm definitely an introvert, and I have a very hard time I won't say I have a hard time making friends exactly, but because, as I said in last week's episode, I like to think I get along with most people, but I have a hard time introducing myself to people, or, you know, just going up to people and starting a conversation or things like that. But yeah, I don't know how applicable I can make this now that I think about it, because a lot of it was the people themselves. You know, part of it was we were all there to study and do like create the same types of things. And that helped too. But a lot of it was just like diving in and saying yes. Anytime, not literally anytime that someone invited me to a thing, but like most times when people would ask like, hey, do you want to go get something to eat? Or like, do you want to go hang out at so-and-so's apartment after class or like whatever. And yeah, just learning to say yes to people and yes to positive, healthy situations. And that made a huge difference. And it turned out that the majority of my fears were unfounded. I think that that's true in a lot of situations. I won't say that a lot of fears are unfounded. Like, they come from real places, of course.
Right.
But I think that a lot of fears can just like grow wildly out of proportion in your head. Right. And that can be good because like the evolutionary function of fear is self-preservation, right? Like our evolutionary ancestors needed to be afraid of things out in the wild, you know, but so that's your brain trying to protect you. So it does come up with as many wild scenarios as it possibly can to keep you safe. But it can also be good to recognize when your brain is playing tricks on you or lying to you. I don't want to be too sunshiny flowery, but like being able to like see the possibility for good and positive outcomes in your life. Was that a complete sentence?
I'm only half listening. That's more than usual.
That's true. Thank you, AJ. I appreciate your attention. Even if it is divided.
I'm sorry, what? Were you done? Or when I was thinking about the question and just like how I deal with fear, I'm like, do I feel fear? And like, of course I feel fear. But I mean like, other than like actual like afraid for my life fear, and I don't like, I don't want it to sound like I think I'm above fear, because that just doesn't sound right. I'm a human who is capable of human emotions. I feel like I might mention, maybe I've never said it on the podcast before, but I feel like in real life I talk about how I'm a human too often, and people are going to get suspicious, you know?
Yeah, you're going to blow your cover.
I really am if I just keep saying it all the goddamn time. If you're like, it's when people are like, oh, I'm funny. Well, if you were funny, you would just be being funny. You wouldn't have to tell me. Like, oh, I'm a human. Well, if you were a human, you wouldn't need to tell me you were a human. You would just be a human.
Methinks you doth protest too much.
I was just thinking about it, and I don't know, because one thing that definitely scares me every time it happens is every time I drop my phone. I get scared. I'm like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. Earlier today, I was on the phone with my mom, and I had my headset plugged in. I'm not fancy, and I don't have, like, Bluetooth earphone pod things. I might not have the money for it, and I might not have the words for it. But actually, I think they're probably cheaper than they used to be. The point is that mine have a cord, and so when I went to the refrigerator to grab a water bottle, my cord got stuck. One of the shelves in our fridge is broken. The arm that's supposed to hold all the food on there is not on there. It's just
like the shelf door.
Yeah.
I mean, the door shelf.
The door shelf. I don't know what I said, but thank you for clarifying. And so my cord got caught on like the part that the arm should be connected to. And so
I hate that thing.
Yeah, and so this is the first time I've had a problem with it. I tried to close the door, and my headphones got stuck on it, and it like dragged me with it. Timothy was sitting at the dining room table while this was all happening, but his back was to me. So I think that he reacted because I was not quiet. I'm not quiet when my phone is at risk. I'll scream fire. Like, I need people to help. But I got caught, and so it jerked me, the door, and my headphones popped out of my ears, and so they were swinging, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And so when I'm picking up the headphones and trying to like unhook the cord from the door, I almost dropped my water bottle, and I don't want that to fall either, so I try to save that, and so then I dropped my phone, but I dropped my phone on the counter, so it didn't fall far, but I was still like, no, don't do it. And honestly, I kind of think, I don't know if my phone case was always cracked, but now there's like a crack on the corner, and I don't know if it was always there, and I just noticed it today after the counter incident, but that's like a moment where I definitely feel fear. Like, if you ever asked me what scares you, that's definitely a thing on the list. Because I'm like, not my phone. First of all, I'm poor. But secondly, it's like my closest friend and knows all my darkest secrets. Like, you know?
Uh-huh.
Although at least if it died, it would take my secrets with it.
Until this moment, I didn't know what situation was happening behind my back. Then, so it's interesting to hear.
I don't remember if I said it, but I remember thinking to tell you, like, mind your own business, Tim. Because I think you started to, like, look over your shoulder.
I did, yeah.
That's like a thing that I say to Tim every now and then.
Every now and then.
Every now and then I tell you to mind your own business.
Literally every time I ask a question, every time I look in his direction.
Why are you looking at me? Well, you don't need to be looking at me. No one told you to look at me. And as for asking questions, what is that about? If you take an interest in me and my life one more time. Ooh, it got awkward. I think I just ended our friendship.
Never. You could never.
I'll keep trying. That's something I'm afraid of. The friendship never ending.
Oh. I thought you meant you were afraid of the friendship ending. Oh.
That's for another episode.
I legitimately though am afraid of like losing friends and being rejected and things like that. I know we had a whole episode about rejection, so I won't bore y'all with that. But yeah, I am really scared of losing people in different ways and various capacities.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get too dark, but like one of the first things I learned about humanity from my parents getting divorced was like, whether this is true or not, like people leave. Like that was just
yeah.
And so I think I like have carried that with me my whole life, and like so just I'm always afraid like, oh well, one day this person is going to get tired of being my friend and that's going to be that. Or like they're going to realize that I am the worst and they're just going to go away. Or they're going to move away one day, which honestly that happens a lot more than the former.
Right.
And that's going to be sad. Mm-hmm. To a certain extent, I'm also afraid of like dying alone. Oh man, I didn't mean to make this such a downer.
I mean, I think it's important to talk about how we feel.
Yeah.
Even if I don't like it. That's what I felt like my tone was. I think it's important to talk about how we feel. Because as a human, I definitely know what feelings are like. I've wondered, like, because I think when people talk about, like, dying alone, I've made a lot of jokes about dying alone. I don't make them as much as I used to make them. But I think when people, like, talk about and use that phrase, dying alone, or, like, being afraid of dying alone, I think that what a lot of people mean is that, like, you'll never find love. And I'm like, oh, okay, because that's different than dying alone. Because, like, you can be in love and still die alone.
That's true.
Like, and so I feel like it's not exactly the same thing. Do you think for you one of those is more true than the other, or is it both interpretations?
I think in this particular case, it's really just no. I guess it is mostly a fear of dying without having true love or whatever.
That Disney bullshit, yeah.
Yeah, kind of, but like, I don't know that I ever like. I'm not afraid of like dying without ever getting married or like without, I don't know what I'm afraid of, AJ.
Okay, well, it's a good thing that that's the topic of this episode.
But, I mean, what is fear but not knowing? You know what I mean?
Into the unknown. Anyway, when I was younger, I used to be afraid of both losing friendships and also of dying alone. I think in the romantic sense and like never being loved romantically. I think I was afraid of both of those things when I was younger, and now I'm not particularly afraid of either. Not like, I mean, I don't want to lose friendships, but I also acknowledge that like people grow and change and drift apart, and I'm like okay with that. I don't think that I'm upset about any friendships that have like changed in that way, because also I don't really think of it as losing friends, because like I have a lot of friends who I used to be really, really, really close to, and now we like rarely talk, but that doesn't upset me. I'm like, we just have a new kind of friendship, and I don't think I love them any less. It's just that I just don't talk to him as much. I don't see him as much. So that's what that's like for me. And then in terms of like falling in love, I'm like, it'll happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's because I've died. So like either way. But I'm like, I'm not that old yet. I've got time. And also because I haven't really, I mean, in the past 10 years anyway, there's only been one person who I'm like, oh, I bet I could have fallen in love with that guy. I feel like if I'd had like a bunch of options and like I wasn't with any of them, maybe then I'd be like, oh my god, I can't find anyone to love me. But because he was the only one that I was interested in, I'm like, well, I mean, I can't fall in love if I can't find someone I want to be in love with, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I ain't tripping. But I understand there are other people who are tripping. No. No, I understand that there are other people who are affected differently by life than I am. I'm a little repulsed by love, so it makes sense that I see things like this. I was going to be like, Timothy had happy, loving parents in his household when he was growing up, but I didn't want to like throw that out there for you. So
That's right, though. My biological parents both found second marriages that were... That's the only way I can think to phrase that in this moment.
I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, no, it's just true. It's just I can't think of a like nicer phrase. But they found lots of happiness and love in their second marriages. And so despite the fact that, like, on the one hand, I'm the child of a broken home, but on the other hand, very sweet, loving couples, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I grew up around that. So I think that kind of warped my sense of reality. Like, oh, that's perfectly attainable and achievable for everyone. And like, that's totally going to happen for you someday because it happens for everyone. That's just the way life is. Everybody finds their soulmate. And that might not be true.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I did not have that experience growing up. My parents were not like that. And so I think that that's why I'm the way I am. I'm like, whatever, take it or leave it. If I find it, that's great. And if I don't, I have my talent and good looks, so I'm chill.
Now I'm more like in between those two. Like, you know... Obviously, I'm not in any hurry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, out there dating or anything. Oh, I'm saying obviously to AJ. You might not know, listener. For all you know, I am married to a wealthy man.
If only.
I'm married to the heir of the Pringles fortune.
I had like a realization. I had a self-realization when we were talking about something. Oh, I realized when I was younger, I was more afraid of losing friends than I was of not finding love. Because growing up, I also watched a lot of shows that centered around your friendships and families that you make, like Buffy and Friends and TV shows where it's like, it's your chosen family and all that bullshit. And so, like, when I was, like, a child and through teenagehood, it's all right. Teenagerdom. And then, like, my early 20s, I was very into my friends because I was like, this is what it's all about. And then I was like, oh, no, my life's about me. It's about me and, like, the people that I want to pull into it, but it's about me. No one else has to live my life except me, so my life's about me.
This is not an ensemble show.
It's not. Goodbye, Tim. He never sees it coming. But yeah, the fear of dying alone is definitely a thing, no matter which way it's meant. I think that's a thing that I would definitely say is a fear and not like some other... Timothy used this phrase, I don't want to use it on my own because I didn't think of it, but Timothy was saying uncertainty feelings. I don't think he said it in the podcast yet, but he said that he called fear an uncertainty feeling, like with like anxiety or like being worried or nervous. And I was like, ooh, uncertainty feelings. That's like a really good uncertainty emotions. It's a really good way to like frame it. But
thank you.
Whatever. Anyway, yeah, I would definitely classify dying alone as like a fear rather than like one of the other uncertainty emotions. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Something else I am actually afraid of, like, and this is like an actual fear I have. I am afraid of the raw sexual energy I exude.
Uh-huh.
Because back in the day, I don't go clubbing anymore. And this is also mostly a topic for another episode. But like back in the day, I would go clubbing and like men would just be all over me. And like I was joking when I said I'm like afraid of my raw sexual energy, but back in the day when I went clubbing, men genuinely were all over me all the time. And I'm like, could you not? Like maybe get your grubby paws off of my drawers. Is that the lyric from that Sandra D song?
Get your
filthy paws off my silky drawers.
There you go.
That's what it is. Anyway, I'm not Sandra D, just to be clear.
Well, neither was she. I mean, neither was Rizzo.
That's true. I am Rizzo. I have a cover of There Are Worse Things I Could Do on my YouTube channel, AJ Reyes F13. Check it out. Anyway.
Shameless plug.
I mean,
I'm into it.
I'm like, why the hell not? I'm not afraid to plug myself.
And it's your podcast.
That's true.
It's not selling out if it's your platform.
It's real talk. But that feels like it might be a topic for another. That's like a sexual assault episode, essentially. Like getting their filthy paws all over my. Yeah. Because like that's another thing. But anyway, I'm not actually afraid of that anyway. We'll just stab a bitch. Timothy makes a lot of comments about he goes off the rails, but I think that I did it this time. So anyway, in some other episode I'll talk more about that, but the point is that I am just such a sexy being that I'm like afraid of my own power.
I feel like I don't fully understand, but I don't know how to ask more about it.
Well, it seems we're at a standstill.
No, I just like I'm interested to know, like, aside from filthy paws, like what are you scared that like you're going to like break someone's heart, or like a man is going to, I don't know, like throw himself off a cliff out of despair that he can't have you, or like are you just scared of like driving people insane, or like what?
It was just a bit.
It was all a bit?
Well, I mean, not the thing that I went off on.
Right.
But I mean, like, the rest of it was a bit.
But like when you wrote it in the notes.
Okay, so pulling back the curtain, y'all, we outline our episodes, and by outline I mean like we write individual sentences of things that we think we might talk about. And so one of the sentences I wrote down was, I'm afraid of the raw sexual energy I exude. And it was just a bit. I just wrote it just for the sake of the bit.
Gotcha. I should have known.
So the reason I wrote that in the outline for myself was because I was really struggling to come up with topics for myself for this episode, because I was like, I don't think I'm afraid of anything. And like, that's not true. It's just, it can't be true. Mm-hmm. Everyone's afraid of something. But like, I couldn't think of anything that scared me that wasn't just like, you know, scary, like death, or just like a scary movie or something, you know? And so that's why I threw down like a bit, just so my list was a little longer. I wonder though if part of my thing is that I don't know how much of this is that I don't feel fear over, because I assume what Carter was asking. Remember, we're supposed to be answering a question. But Carter was asking, like...
Thanks for sticking with us, Carter.
Oh, I totally forgot. How do you push through things that scare or intimidate you? So, anyway, the point being, like, scare or intimidate, fear in the sense that, like, you are trying to do something that scares you. Since that seemed to be what Carter was asking, I was trying so hard to think of things that I've done that scared me, and I've got nothing, because leaving Sonic didn't scare me. Going to LA, I got into a writing workshop in 2012, and Timothy accompanied me on the road trip, and so I was in a workshop for like a week with a bunch of people who I didn't know. I was only 22. It was like the first thing I'd like really done where I was surrounded by people who I had no idea who they were, and where I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. But that didn't scare me either. That was just like a new exciting adventure. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't think of that as having scared me. Every situation that I could think of when I was trying to come up with what I could talk about on this episode, I was like, oh, that was so exciting. Or like, ooh, that was new. I was ready to do that. Mm-hmm. And like, none of it scared me. I don't know if I have an emotional complex, or if my definition of fear is maybe just askew, or if I'm like blinded to myself and I'm like, I fear nothing, when I actually like do fear things and I just won't admit it. Like, is that a subconscious thing? Well, Timothy, dissect me.
Well, that's part of why I wanted to like try to broaden it to like different emotions surrounding uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I think we all feel some measure of uncertainty no matter which avenue it takes. Yeah, I feel like I have sort of the opposite problem. Like, I'm afraid of everything. Not literally, but I do have a lot of worry and anxiety about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And we've touched on that in previous episodes. You know, sometimes you have to just like give in to the fear and let inertia take you. Like just you know, I'm gonna you know, drink champagne in my bubble bath and not do that.
I forgot I actually have a quote from Downton Abbey about fear. Did we reference Downton Abbey in this episode, or was that last episode?
I think that was last episode.
Okay. That might sound weird to y'all, but that's because we record 2 episodes every time we record. So just more behind the curtain stuff. We recorded episode 12 right before we started recording this one. Because I feel like it sounds weird to be like, was that last episode or this episode when we're recording this episode right now?
Right? Did that happen tonight or like a month ago?
Right.
Like, right, I guess a week ago is probably what you would have assumed if you assumed anything. I don't know why I said a month.
I lied. It's not from Downton Abbey. It's from a show called Make It or Break It that I think only had like 2 seasons. I think that was on ABC Family, now Freeform. But anyway, the quote is, it's okay to be scared of trying something new, but if you don't... It's actually kind of a shit quote. It's okay to be scared of trying something new, but if you don't try at all, you could become scared your whole life. And I just feel like the wording is kind of shit, but like the sentiment is close enough to something that I enjoy. But no offense to whoever wrote that from Make It or Break It. I'm an actor. I'm looking for a job, actually. So if you...
Wow, that turned around real quick.
Well, that's why I had to be like, no offense to whoever wrote it, because I want to work with you.
You gotta play the game.
Real talk. I'm not afraid to make a fool of myself if it means that I will get ahead. In life. Not like get ahead. Just like get ahead in life.
I don't think anybody thought you meant...
Well, I'm not afraid of my raw sexual magnetism, so I'm allowed to talk about things like that.
Wait, I thought you were afraid of your raw sexual magnetism.
Oh, Timothy, I can't keep up with my lies. Anyway, what were you talking about?
I was also doing a bit about how, like, sometimes it's okay to give in to fear and just, like, not do anything. Just to clarify, that was a bit, dear listener. Like,
I honestly didn't get that.
I'm not saying that, like, you always have to face your fears in every situation and do, like, dangerous things and, like,
Right.
I'm not saying that. But I am saying that it can be good to face your fears. And I was being facetious. I will say that.
Yeah, if you're, I think, I can't remember if I said it earlier in this episode or not. But yeah, if it's like a life or death situation, maybe listen to your fear, maybe, and trust that. Yeah. But if it is about the uncertainty emotions and trying new things or doing things that intimidate you, but you think you'll enjoy anyway, I think the way that I push through those sorts of feelings is like pure denial. And I'm like almost not joking. Like, I mean, essentially it's either like denial or like neglect. But I'm basically like, if it's not gonna hurt me or anyone else, I'm gonna do it. If I think if it's something that will help me grow or learn or I'm going to enjoy, why wouldn't I do it? Even if it scares me. Like, I mean, oh God, is that the only advice I have for this? Just do it. We are not sponsored by Nike. If Nike is trying to sponsor people, we are here. Is this episode all over the place, or am I? I think that's all the advice I have. Like, you can do it. I believe in you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I mean, like, I'm afraid of AJ, but I live with him every day.
Yeah, see? Face your fears. Because even if you're scared of it, that doesn't mean it'll kill you right away. I definitely don't have any other advice. I feel so bad. All my advice is just like, just do it. Oh, just do it. Hey, just fucking do it. Like, hey, get over yourself and do it. That's all my advice is. So if you need advice, just send it in, and I will find a new way to word what I have already said.
And where can they send those requests, AJ?
They can send that to bother us at canibotheryou.com, or they can slide into those DMs. I'm almost scared to say that because of my raw sexual magnetism.
Your raw sexual magnetism.
energy is the word I was using before, but that's okay. It all applies.
Your raw sexual energy.
Timothy, you're making me really uncomfortable talking about my raw sexual energy.
I'm sorry. I felt uncomfortable talking about it.
Oh, God.
But, you know, it's a problem sometimes. Not a problem. I'm not, like, criticizing you.
Well, I was like, I don't know what the problem is. Is the problem you talking about it, you not talking about it, it existing?
Oh, just, like, it's a force.
Really?
In the universe that has a mind of its own. I don't know.
God. I'm so glad that's not true. Anyway, if you guys, you know what, let me know if you agree and you think that I have raw sexual energy to be feared. Just let me know in a review, and also if you think that I have a raw sexual energy that should be feared, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or whatever. If you think that I don't have a raw sexual energy that should be feared, you should leave us 5 stars.
I agree.
And then also, as those are ways to support both my raw sexual energy and the podcast, another way to support my raw sexual energy and the podcast is through Ko-fi. We
You were just saying raw sexual energy a lot. That's not a criticism, it's just an observation.
My raw sexual energy cannot be contained, and that is why I need to say it again.
Gotcha.
As I was saying, you can support the podcast and my raw sexual energy via Ko-fi, monetarily, if you'd wish.
All right. Well, I don't have AJ's raw sexual energy, but I do have a few social media accounts if you'd like to follow me.
I guess that'll do.
I'm at TCJDV on Twitter, at Tomatio88 on Instagram, and you can just search Timothy Dailey-Valdes on Facebook, and I will come right up. You can also find me and my writing on my website, TimothyDaileyValdes.com, all one word. AJ, where can people find you?
I can be found on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at AJReyesF13. Come hang out with me. And my raw sexual energy.
I fear not living up to the high standards that AJ has set.
That sucks.
It's a burden I must bear my whole life long.
Preferably silently. Okay, so I forgot to say thank you. We forgot to say thank you to Carter for sending in the question about fear.
Yes, thank you so much, Carter.
I genuinely feel bad that my advice is basically just do it, Carter. Jeez. But I hope that Timothy said something helpful.
Well, and contained in AJ's just do it, geez, is the confidence that you can do it. We believe in you, Carter.
I do believe in you. If this were... So, Carter is someone that I actually know, so I believe in you, Carter. But even if Carter was someone I didn't know, I would still say I believe in you. Because, y'all, whoever you are, if you are listening to this, I believe in you. Whether you like it or not. And fear and being intimidated by things is really hard. But there's a good chance you're going to thank yourself for doing whatever it is that is scaring you.
AJ is wise. You should listen to him.
AJ's also funny. Insert joke here. Okay, bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.